Anurag Kashyap, in a recent interview with the Hollywood Reporter India, said that he heard Shankar is going to create the structure of Game Changer in such a way that the already distracted Indian audience that is addicted to reels does not get bored. There will be such an assault to the senses, such a breathless nature to the screenplay that they won't get bored. And when a director like Shankar, who was known as a game changer for Indian cinema regarding the integration of not only technology in cinema, but the themes he explored, resorts to such tactics to garner the attention of audiences, it is a clear sign of the death of cinema. Shankar, since the last 4 or 5 years, has been working on Game Changer and Indian 2 and 3, a juggling process between two projects that has led to both the films being in limbo of sorts. People would for years listen to the updates and struggles in completion of the projects and the large gaps that would only generate a sense of worry rather than excitement. With the disastrous response of Indian 2, people got extreme anxiety towards the final outcome of Game Changer. Will it be a sign of a director who has clearly lost touch, like we saw with the Kamal Hassan starrer? Or would Game Changer be the real comeback of the legendary director? After finishing 2 hours and 45 minutes of this film, it's safe to say that this is far from Shankar's comeback, and a stark reminder that even a legend like him needs to go back to the drawing board and understand what has possibly gone wrong in recent years. Game Changer is a commercial political drama starring Charan playing the role of IAS Ram Nandan, an official who is adamant in making the state of Andhra Pradesh corrupt-free. The IPS turned IS officer has a monumental task ahead of him, especially when he is faced with the son of the Chief Minister, Bobbili Moppi Devi, played by S.J. Suryah, adamant in his ways and unwilling to change his corrupt ways. How Ram makes sure that the politicians and businessmen change their ways and S.J. Suryah toes the line forms the basic premise of this Shankar extravaganza that has apparently invested close to 400 crores to make this a reality. The screenplay further highlights the origin story of Ram and why he is so persistent in his ways to make sure the state becomes devoid of crime and unlawful acts. Here's me telling you the good and bad aspects of Game Changer so that you guys can ultimately decide whether to watch it in theaters or not. The good. The flashback portion. Whenever one reflects on Shankar's filmography, his films were always known to have a balance between the audacious and emotionally resonant. While Game Changer takes the shape of becoming like a reel-like structure where one does not have the luxury to even feel any emotion, the only portion of the film that actually had a sense of groundedness and heart is when the film transports us to a flashback, which indicates the origin story of Ram and his family. This is the portion where one gets to see the pure bond between a man who hopes and acts for change in society and a doting wife willing to sacrifice and pray for nothing but her husband's goal to be achieved. This is where Ram is at his finest in my opinion, and it overrides all the slow motion money shots that he gets as an IAS officer. This is where style becomes secondary and the film actually seeks for some soul. Upon reflecting back on how the entire film shaped up, I would have been more than happy if the flashback portion of the film was a solo film in itself. Even the action set pieces have a sense of groundedness and drama, contrary to the IAS sequences that are essentially a plethora of Mokobot shots. Action is most effective when the motivation and drama behind the stunts is effective, and the only sense of realism that I found in this film was in the flashback portion where Ram Charan was shining and was provided with great support by Anjali, Ram Charan's attempt. If one is looking for genuine commitment, then I actually cannot fault Ram Charan at all for what he has given to this role. The man gets one money shot after the other, one slow motion sequence after the other, and one massy dialogue in each scene. And while the writing is absolutely substandard, I would actually like to say terrible in some instances, Ram tries his best to convince you that this film is more than just the sheer investment in every frame. I think he personally was shining the most in the flashback portion, as I mentioned, as the current timeline sequences with SJ Suryah just take the shape of becoming frivolous mass commercial cinema. There are portions, especially one where Ram is tied to a police van and he engages in hand-to-hand combat where he shines. But I would be lying if I told you that it was all smooth sailing. This sinking ship cannot be saved by only one man's sincerity. Eventually, Shankar's game changer crumbles in its own outdated weight. And I will tell you exactly why a sense of exhaustion creeps in when you sit through this film that essentially turns out to become one montage after the other. The underwhelming aspects, opulence and expenditure on the unnecessary. The one thing that was advertised throughout the marketing of this film was that the producers of this film have invested 75 crores on all the songs of the film. You know what's one of the most unnecessary elements of this film that actually absolutely disconnects you from the story? The songs. This is where I wish producers realize that opulence and huge investment on sets is not a contributing factor to motivate audiences to come into theaters. This may have been something that acted as a catalyst 20 years ago, but not today, which is one of the reasons why I feel like Shankar really has not evolved from the filmmaking styles that made him such a popular figure throughout the country. What's the point of investing so heavily in the music videos of the film if its best song has been removed from the final edit due to technical difficulties of its infrared images being rendered for the big screen? There is a song called Dhop that is referenced just like Kisik throughout the dialogues of this movie, almost as a sign of extinguishing anger, and its visuals are over the top and honestly tacky, not classy in any way. The most popular song, Jara Gandhi, has such colorful visuals that it looks like you're on the sets of Willy Wonka versus a visual extravaganza that I should clap for. The choreography is something that I will come to later, but the song that especially showcases Charan dancing on a traffic light as the public watches him, all as a means to curtail his anger, has to be a peak matlab kuch bhi moment from this film. Opulence and expenditure is not something that impresses audiences anymore. Effective writing that leads to good storytelling does. Outdated comedy and romance. There are several sequences that will just make you roll your eyes because it is reflective of movies that were effective and relevant a few decades ago, but not today. You've got Sunil playing side Satyam, Ram Charan's secretary who only walks sideways, and people either believe he is ogling at women or not giving the due respect to those in front of him. An analogy of society that does not walk the straight path but misses the point to communicate the same by a long shot. You've got Brahmi randomly appearing for a gag and it completely misses the mark to even generate a smirk from you. The entire portion of Kiara Advani and the romance is so half-baked that you barely feel anything for their union. Kiara is constantly trying to control Ram's anger, and just to get the point across, they constantly project animation of Ram's anger meter and Kiara's love meter. Dependent on the emotion and outcome, the meter goes up or down. If that wasn't enough, in a sequence where Ram is romancing Kiara, they are talking about their Sohagrat before marriage, and Kiara asking if they're going against their culture by doing so before marriage, only for an animated text of culture to come between them. It's painful. The film eventually gives the tonality of being a cartoon versus a political drama we can take seriously. Vanilla Kishore literally plays a comedic character whose only purpose is to stare and ogle at Kiara while making sounds like yeah, whoa, yeah, whoa, like a front bencher in a theatre. Even a Malayalam cinema legend like Jairam is handed over such silly sequences you cringe rather than smile as he acts like a bootleg Shakuni and buries his face in a girl's navel in this movie. Screeching background music and terrible choreography. I am all for mass commercial cinema to have stylistic and loud background music for the entry of the hero and when he says a one-liner and walks away in slow motion. But I kid you not that Taman's background score in this film exceeds even the decibel levels of Veera Simha Reddy. It's so loud and integrated in so many places that it eventually becomes annoying. So what was intended to actually be an addition to the style quotient of Ram Charan becomes a deterrent for you to enjoy the scenes as in so many cases, it just masks the effectiveness of scenes and becomes a lazy way to enhance the drama. Charan is a brilliant dancer, and I can't tell you how uncomfortable it was to sit through the several dance numbers and see him struggle through each choreography. It genuinely is a skill to make someone so capable look so awkward, and Ram really does struggle through several of the dance numbers. SJ Suryah being used as a one-trick pony. I am an absolute fan of SJ Suryah and the entertaining ways in which he has played the antagonist in recent films. Especially if I were to look at films like Manadu and Saripoda Sanivaram. He stood out and made the eventual face-off with the hero exciting. But this was the first time in a long time where I felt like SJ Suryah was being utilized to do what he is already popular for versus what was required for the role. SJ Suryah integrates humor by being over the top with his reactions, absolutely bewildered by the disrespect showcased by Ram, and while this is momentarily funny and exciting, it takes the shape of been there, done that with SJ Suryah. This is something similar to what Pankaj Tripathi went through in his appearances in Hindi cinema, where he was so entertaining initially, where directors would almost give him free rein to do whatever he wants, eventually leading to a sense of staleness coming in with his performances. I commend SJ Suryah's energy, but it also feels like directors are trying to extract the same old stuff from him again and again. Game Changer is a reminder of many things. That a charming hero cannot save a sinking ship. That a talented director cannot depend on the same tropes that made him popular decades ago. A re-release of Shankar's own Madhulvan, aka Nayak in Hindi, would have been far more effective. Moreover, that more money spent does not actually equate to quality of filmmaking. And more importantly, that it's important to self-reflect if one's ways are just not evolving as the years have passed by. It was tough to sit through Game Changer, which was miles ahead in quality when compared to Indian 2, but that's probably the worst standard to compare any film to. It's actually offensive if we give a pass to Game Changer if we believe it's just better than Indian 2. More, and I mean far more, is expected from Shankar as a filmmaker. You know the film is doomed when the greatest performances are by inanimate objects like a Mokobot and an army of JCBs. And that was a video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about Game Changer. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.